What's up, everybody? Paul Hickey here with NoOffSeason.com. You are listening to the Soccer Card Strategy Show with my main man, the catalytic lefty Kendall McKee. He is about to break down 5 big plays before the start of the World Cup, including 5 players that he think would be the best bets, as well as some flyers. So stay tuned for another power-packed episode of the Soccer Card Strategy Show right here on the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Content Network. Kendall, take it away.
Hey, and welcome to the Soccer Card Strategy Show at NoOffSeason.com. We're back for another packed episode. As you guys know, I'm a fan of where the soccer card market is at right now. What I would love to say even more than that is I think it is it's obtainable for anybody who wants to start getting into another area of cards. So if you are in football, basketball, baseball, WWE, wrestling, UFC, whatever you're into in terms of the card network, I think the soccer card market is achievable right now because I think it is necessarily the easiest to just put your foot into because of the let's just say immaturity in the market in its whole entirety. So what my episode is on today is I had a buddy reach out to me, Chase Krim. If you're out there from Texas Roadshow, what's going on, man? This episode basically started all from you reaching out and a text and said he basically asked me who are the best 5 soccer buys right now. And so what I did was I said, okay, I asked him a further question. I said, how long do you want to hold? And he said selling right at World Cup hype. So I was like, okay, what young players can I look at in the World Cup that could potentially be big buys right now that could gain a whole lot of steam between now and the start of the World Cup? Naturally, those players primarily are younger players. Primarily, they were going to hit the stage for the first time. And I think of, when we've seen past World Cups, we've seen players kind of create a brand for themselves in the World Cup. And I think there's these couple of players that really have a chance to do that here in the World Cup. So they're in varying different ages. Some of them are a little bit older than others. But for the most part, they're young national team guys that are just kind of breaking onto their national team scene. The one caveat with most of these players is some of them might be a little too young for their national team. For instance, they might not get all the minutes that they necessarily need or deserve to have a incredible hype. But with the World Cup rosters not being announced yet, I'm taking a little bit of speculation here by saying I think these guys are going to end up playing big minutes for their national team. And I might as well just start with a guy who I think is already going to log big minutes with his national team, and that is Jude Bellingham. I think he's my first one on this list today, not necessarily in any order, and saying that he is a guy that's going, it's not like he's the highest on this list, but I think he has a good chance of logging significant minutes here for the English national team. I do think he eventually beats out some of the guys in that midfield. When you look at guys like it just depends on the formation they're running, honestly. If they do run the 5-2-3-1 or 4-2-3-1 that they have been running, you are going to see him probably fall back behind Mason Mount somewhere, something like that. But I could see Jude Bellingham really having a coming out party here at the World Cup. But again, it's not always consistent minutes. He's got incredible players on his team that are going to play ahead of him, and it depends on whether they want to sub him in for a guy like Saka or Sterling, or if they want to potentially take one less defensive mid off the field and get him in for a guy like Declan Rice or a guy like Calvin Phillips potentially. That is the last roster that we saw today, but all those guys were in the last well, I guess it was yesterday. would have been the England-Germany 1-1 draw. We saw Rice, Phillips, Mount, Sterling, Osaka in that midfield, and I don't think Harry Kane's going anywhere. And I think you're not going to convince me that Harry Kane is going to get passed up. And guys like Jack Grealish and Raheem Sterling are going to get minutes on this team as well. So you kind of have some good feet there. But I think Jude definitely deserves minutes and is a guy that has logged minutes on the national team already. When we see that he does have 12 caps, unfortunately, he doesn't have a goal yet, but I think that's coming. I think we see this guy being more involved in the entirety of the game, though, which is what I think is going to be more important for Jude Bellingham's. I think as a creator, he will definitely rise in value. And as we know, those Borussia Dortmund players are already rising in value all day long. You've got guys there just budding with talent, and so I think Jude is one of the 5 best options. And if you just Google, top youngsters at the World Cup, Jude is in every list that people are talking about. So I can't not talk about him, but I am a little bit concerned by the players ahead of him, which, to be honest, most of these players that I'm going to list have some sort of when is it going to be their time? When is the national team coach going to hand it to them to be their time? And if the World Cup is that, then fantastic. But we have seen, for instance, his national team debut was in 2020. So he's had this is his second year. November will be his second full year of national team attention. And so, anyway, I think that Jude is going to have a good season. A card that I could see you wanting to get with Bellingham is his Topps Chrome Bundesliga Refractor as a PSA 10. It's really affordable right now at $200 or so. And as a PSA 10, where the guy that's that much potential, I think that's a really good buy. Next, I'm going to jump into a guy that is a little bit younger on the scene. For instance, he's 17 years old, which is kind of crazy, but he does have 8 caps already and has 1 goal for his national team already from the central midfielding position, and that is Gavi. Gavi is he's worth 66 million already. The guy is incredible. Paul and I have talked about him actually on several different episodes, whether that was on the Soccer Card Show or that is on the flagship show. We have actually mentioned Gavi as well, and we mentioned him before he dropped in this Topps Chrome product. An interesting thing with Gavi here is I think it's unique to point out how young he is and how he is getting national caps on the Spanish national team. This Spanish national team is different than the one I grew up watching. For instance, the tiki taka is not necessarily there. You don't have the guys that are just exploding off the field that I grew up watching. So this is kind of a new team. And you do see some of those quote unquote old heads on here. For instance, there are going to be guys like Sergio Busquets that probably end up getting on that national or that World Cup roster just because they got to have some I guess stability. You are going to see guys like Azpilicueta and guys like that, but for the young group on this team is exciting, and you see with the additions of Ansu Fati, when you have Gavi and Pedri there and things of that nature, I think it is all. Wait, let me see just a second. I want to make sure that I didn't just say something wrong. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. So, for some reason, I had a mild, freak out that Pedri was a Portugal national, but he is a Spanish national. So I went with my gut there. But I think Gavi ends up having significant minutes here and might be the guy that has the most rise. For instance, we're seeing him in the Nations League games already getting minutes, and he has a goal last week for Spain. And so I love Gavi. I think he fits in that Spanish role really well, of that central midfielder, of that guy who attacks box to box. And we see him, being a threat. And one of the most valuable guys on this national team roster in terms of market value. So he's at the same level as Ansu Fati in terms of market level, according to transfermarket.us. And so I love his addition. I think as a card perspective, as a card buy, it's a little bit challenging though, because he doesn't necessarily have the top end cards that you do see from other players. And so Gavi does have PSA 10s around 1,000 to 1,200, somewhere in there, and that's kind of the top end. So he definitely has some affordable cards, a lot more base options. But I would go personally right now with a Topps rookie card, Topps Chrome rookie card that has just come out in the previous set. There is a Chrome set that's coming out later this summer, but there are Chrome cards in the paper set, and so personally, that's what I would do. I also like the Barcelona team set that he has. If you can get some graded versions of that, maybe, or the Mega Crack that we have talked about previously. He does have a cool mosaic card that came out this year, which I like a lot as well. I'm just not as much of a fan of Panini, and I talked about that on this last the Monday's episode of the Sports Card Strategy Show. Topps just seems to have some sort of a foothold in the Topps market, or in the soccer market, and it seems like the Panini cards are just not as valuable. And not that that's a licensing problem. It just seems like that is just the way that people are going. And so I do want to stick with that and say my pick for Gavi is going to be that Topps rookie card Chrome. If you can get a numbered variation of his Chrome card, that would be great. I don't believe that he has autos out yet because he's so young, but his cards are going to skyrocket in the World Cup if he ends up logging as many minutes as I think he will in the Spanish national team. And I'm super excited about him being so young and then so desirable. I think that's going to be my guy who I'm going to spend the most allocated money on this preparing for the World Cup is Gavi. So my next my next groups are from two national teams together. I have two guys from one national team and two guys from another. So technically, when Krim asked me top five, I gave him 6 because I couldn't really decide. And I wanted to also speak on this. I do think there are going to be, and I've said this a lot, and I'm sure I'm becoming that guy at this point, but I would say that the American national team is going to have the most profitability, I think, because of the demographic of people that are wanting cards. And I don't think they will be the most valuable, but I think they will possibly be the most liquid. And so when I'm looking at investments, I didn't actually put any Americans on this top 5 list because I think that's kind of a separate thing. And so in terms of, if you're going to want to make quick flips, then I probably will make a video on the top 5 cards that you could potentially buy from the American national team at some point. But I'm going to stick with non-American players today because I just wanted to offer something different to our audience. So we've talked about Bellingham, we've talked about Gavi, and I told you I had 2 guys from 2 national teams that I like a lot, and that I think have a chance of logging some national team minutes. So I'm going to start with Anthony. I like his profile. I think he is a little bit older than I would like to see with as many national team caps as he has, but I think that is because of how decent the Brazilian national team is. So Anthony, being 22 years old, actually only evaluates at about half of Gavi's evaluation at 38.5 million, and he only has 6 national team caps with 0 goals. But I think he has a chance, if he can make it on that Brazil roster, I think he has the chance of stepping into some big shoes and being a Brazilian guy that's really going to define himself at this World Cup level. So we'll see him behind some guys. You know, for instance, him being a right winger is not always the best thing, but I have seen him be let me give me 1 second so I can get to the right page. Yeah. So there's obviously some great attackers on this Brazilian team, but with him being a right winger / central mid or central attacking mid, whichever you really want to say there, he has some competition. But I think he's got his chance to stand up into his new role. So with him being a right winger, he could play across the field from another guy that I'm going to speak on, and I might as well speak on them together because with Brazilian national team being that it is, I think him and Vinicius Jr. are some of the best buys at the World Cup. Now, obviously, they're different levels. Vinicius Jr. is about 110 million in market cap, and Anthony is lower than that in the 30s. But I think Anthony will push this roster to be on it. I think they are going to potentially put him over a guy like potentially Martinelli or Canna or potentially even Philip Coutinho. I think his time at the national team might be over. Like, I'm not really sure there. I'm not a guy who regularly watches the Brazilian national team, and I am going to bring on a guy from Brazil here in a couple weeks to talk shop with me, and so I'm sure he's going to be able to speak more about this attacking unit. But when you have names that are like Vinicius, you have Neymar, you have Rafinha, you have Richarlison, Gabriel Jesus. There's a lot of attacking power here, and so my concern with Anthony is that he doesn't end up making enough minutes to be impactful. But he could necessarily grow his value a lot just by making the team, and with him being in the position that he is in terms of Ajax wanting to potentially move, and he not sure where he's going to go. His market cap is accrued from his move from Sao Paulo over to Ajax, but Ajax he's done nothing but grow, and he plays really decent. But even then, he's only got 62% starting 11 minutes for Ajax. So I'm a little confused here, but I do have to say he's my wild card of the six. But he's a big enough name that I think if he makes the team and if he does get impactful minutes, that it's going to be a guy that we're going to want to look at. I don't necessarily have a specific card buy for Anthony because of that. I would just go for his rookie cards in his Topps Chrome set. So I will jump over to Vinnie Jr. I think Vinnie Jr. is going to be a star at this World Cup. I think he ends up taking that left winger spot. They've started him at a left mid and they've put Neymar up top. I'm not sure that what they're going to do. Brazil has so many options. They can just keep moving things around. Their last performance against Japan in an international friendly on June 6th, which was 2 days ago, they had Vinnie Jr. at the left winger, and then they have left mid, left winger, left mid, whichever one you want to classify that as. And then they also had Rafinha out there and Neymar. But they didn't have guys other on their team that were potentially ready to go. They subbed on Richarlison. I'm not sure which level of Richarlison you're going to get at the World Cup. He could score bags and potentially be a guy that really ups his value. Also, you have Gabriel Jesus that came on in that game as well. And Vinny did get subbed off. But with his addition, with his goal that he had in the Champions League final, and with Vinny Jr. being so popular and being a Real Madrid star, I think you will see his value continue to rise, and is a guy that everybody's going to look for when it's building up to this World Cup. So if you have the capital for it, just a little under $1,000, you can get a raw kaboom for Vinny Jr. I think that is an option. I think you might as well go high on Vinny Jr. because if you're going to get some of him, you're going to want to get some rarities of him because of how popular his rated rookies are in the optics and the Donruss base. If you're a guy that's really looking to invest long term, then you can maybe make some plays there in the middle. But I would say, like, if you're really flipping, that kaboom is going to definitely be liquid and sell very fast at the right time. And with these kind of short term flips and the like 6-month flips, you're going to want a card that it gets on eBay and immediately gets seen. You're not going to want to get caught in other other bulk and potentially not have your auction go for the price that it's going to. So if you do have the capital for it, I would go for a Vinny Jr. kaboom. There are, it's rare, but there are out there. So if you have the chance to do that, go for it. My other national team, two guys that I want to look at is also two guys that I am unsure whether they end up playing a ton or not. And that is kind of the question with a lot of these guys, like I've said, but I wanted to point out two German national team players that I like a lot. I'm going to talk about Musiala and Wirtz. So both of these guys are fun to watch. Musiala, for instance, coming from Musiala coming from Bayern Munich, 19 years old. I like his profile. I think he's a guy that is going to be a stud. We've seen him move from the English national team to the German national team. That was really on high profile. He grew up in England, or he grew up in Germany, but now he's coming through the ranks as an England national teamer at U21. Then he decides to move over to Germany. It's a big deal. Obviously, Germany wants to get him in the starting 11. He's got 13 caps for them and a goal. And so he's a goal scorer as a central attacking mid. He's done nothing but increase his value over the past couple of years, and he's 19 years old, which is outstanding. So I love Jamal Musiala. I think he's going to be a guy that's definitely going to be looked at in the starting 11 for Germany. I think he definitely has more of a chance to get on the field than Wirtz, but I think Wirtz has a chance to make this national team. But I think that Musiala is definitely the German that I want to go with in terms of putting my money somewhere. The German national team has been incredible at a national stage for like it's as far back as you can go, really. And they're kind of turning new leaves again. They are going to have more veterans there than some other teams, like for instance Spain, but you are going to see guys at the national team level that are going to get recognized for the first time. Musiala being one of those guys, being one of the youngest guys that's capped on the national team right now. And with a guy like Kai Havertz also on that team, it's a fun demographic, and Musiala really is a guy that can sit underneath some of these guys that are between the ages of 25 and 29. You see guys like Sane and Timo Werner that are on this team, and they're going to be able to really grow his effectiveness and learn underneath those guys. And then, I mean, don't get me wrong, you've also got guys like Gundogan on that team, and then Mueller is never going anywhere, seems like. So it's going to be a fun team to watch at the national team level. I'm always a fan of watching German football. I think it's something that is appealing to the eye. And Musiala is going to be a guy that you're going to want to have. In terms of Wirtz, though, Florian Wirtz is a little bit of a long shot. In terms, he does have the 77 million market cap, so he's a guy that is worthy of national team, even at the German level. He does have 4 caps. His debut was in 2021, September of 2021. So this is a guy that is gaining a lot of steam. But he is 19 years old as well. Also plays attacking mid, and has done a lot of the same things in terms of rising through ranks like Musiala, just a little bit more unknown than Musiala. He does play on Bayer Leverkusen, which is a little bit lesser of a team in that German first tier. But I couldn't see Wirtz having a big World Cup if he does get national team minutes. In terms of the guys that, or in terms of cards for those two, I love the Obsidian cards, and Musiala has a 2020 Obsidian that's 150 raw and a little over 500 PSA 10. I think that's pretty achievable for him. And then for Wirtz cards, we have Topps Chrome Bundesliga Refractor raw between 125 and 150. It's a beautiful looking card, and it's actually the same set, the same Bundesliga set that the Jude Bellingham card is that I talked about. And interestingly, Jude Bellingham PSA 10, 210. Around 210 to 250. That's PSA 10. Wirtz's refractor raw is 125 to 150. So you are seeing a little bit of hype built into that already, which I think is really fun to look at and to watch. But when we look at what it is to be at a national team level, I'm not sure that Germany will put him up there yet. They do have, Kai. They have Mueller still, Timo Werner, Sane. They have a lot of attacking options, but I think he's going to get in that. He's going to get in that national team, and I could see him logging big minutes. Maybe they put him ahead of Timo and Kai and Musiala, and maybe he is at that number 9 spot. And it just remains to be seen what they actually do with formations when you're having all these players potentially play similar positions at the club level. They don't always play the same position at the national team level. But with Germany, their last game against England, which we talked about earlier, on June 7th, which was yesterday, they did run a 3-4-2-1, and they had Musiala, Mueller, Havertz all on the field at one time. And so they do have like some sort of attacking core that's very high up the field, working together, playing off each other. And I could see where it's getting in there as well. So they're going to have guys on that national team that are a little older. I would say a guy like Hoffman is probably not going to make the roster, or maybe guys like Lucas Mecha is maybe a guy who doesn't get on the roster over a guy like Wirtz, but we'll see. That national team roster has not been announced yet. So those are 5/6 guys that I do like, and I would love to see on the national team level, especially at the World Cup. So I do have several flyers as well. So I didn't do as much research on this, but I want to keep these as an option. And these are a couple of guys that I think are a little bit out of the limelight, but have the ability to make a big stage at the national team level. And I'm going to say them just very quickly and give very quick reasons why. I like for my flyers in terms of the World Cup could really boost their value depending on what they do, or they could just lay an egg, and it's high risk, high reward here is Gareth Bale, Joao Felix, Kaminga, and Ronaldo. So I like that Portugal team. I think the media attention is going to be very high on Ronaldo, could potentially, because this is maybe his swan song in his last little World Cup. Him and Messi together, they're going to hype it up a lot. Ronaldo also has scored a ton of goals on the national team level. He's definitely still got it. He's scored a hat trick this year for Manchester United. We could see Ronaldo's value still continue to rise through this World Cup. And I also like Joao Felix on that Portuguese team. I think he's a guy that's going to step into some big roles there. I like what he's doing. And Kaminga, I like him too on that French team. He's a Real Madrid player. And so I think he's got the name degree. That French team is going to go very far, I think, in the World Cup. And there's definitely a lot of French players that I could see fitting into this top 5 or top 5/6 discussion. But I wanted to give Kaminga a shot here by just saying, like, him being a national teamer, him being in Real Madrid's team, is a guy that he's going to have attention. He's got cards out there. I think Kaminga has a chance to really boost his value here at the World Cup. And my final flyer here that's going to be a really unique case is Gareth Bale. We've seen Gareth Bale have tons of club problems at the club level. We've seen him have an up and down season since he's gone to Real Madrid. He's done crazy things. He's like ran around Barcelona, made them look stupid at one point. He scores like a big goal in extra time to win, I think, the 11th Champions League title. Like, we've seen Bale be like one of the best, if not one of the most talented players in just based off sheer talent in the world. But there's just some problems with him in terms of fitness. Now, when you see him on the Wales national team, you see a different Bale. You see a guy that's totally committed, a team that's totally committed to him. You see a guy that's not worried about his club. He's worried about his country. And that is rare, but it does happen. And so I would say that if Gareth Bale has a good showing, he's in a tough group with England and United States, and with I believe Iran I should know this. England, Iran, and USA, all in his division. But with that being said, he's definitely going to get some national eyeballs if Bale does come out of somewhere and potentially put on a big show, score some pretty fantastic goals, and leads his team that is pretty much just a ragtag group. And if he leads that Welsh team, that which is an old head group, because it's a lot of veterans, a lot of last time veterans, and these guys that are coming up together, him and Aaron Ramsey, you are going to see them get onto the field and potentially just leave it all out there. They have no pressure. I could see Bale scoring quite often in the group stage, and potentially I'm a little bit nervous if I'm United States, because I don't want to go in there and potentially, like, I think from 1 to 20 they have more talent, but that one superstar, I think Bale has more overall talent than anyone on the American team, which I'm sure people are going to be very upset when I say that. If you're comparing Pulisic and Bale, I think it's very close, but I still would say on talent alone, I think I'm going to take Bale there. So so that is the Sports Card Strategy Show. Thanks for coming. Don't forget to stop by nooffseason.com and look at our updated rankings. We're going to have a lot of soccer content over the next 6 months. And finally, I do want to give a shout out to the company that I use to get all these card buys and potentially and looking at the different market movers apps and things like that. sportscardinvestor.com. They've done well to support us here at no off season. Use the code no off season to get a free month or a month for $1. Feel free to stop by there. They're guys that have really supported us, and we want to support them as well. So in terms of the Sports Card Strategy Show, we'll be here every Monday. Continue to drop in, continue to listen to all these cards. We have some great people that are doing really some really cool things on different sports in general. If you haven't checked out the football, if you haven't checked out the football podcast with Andy, he is really, really talented and smart. If you guys are in the actual American football section of card collecting, definitely go check that out. Otherwise, my name is Kendall. I do the soccer and baseball show. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you soon.
Great work, Kendall. Everyone, thank you so much for watching and listening to the Soccer Card Strategy Show right here on the Sports Card Content Network at nooffseason.com. You are subscribed, hopefully, to the Sports Card Strategy Show feed, and that's why you get these other niche shows. So thank you again so much for watching and listening. We would love it if you check out everything we're doing at nooffseason.com, where you can save 20% on the Sports Card Investment Report by using the promo code NOOFFSEASON, all lowercase, at checkout. Everybody, thanks and have a great day.